Understanding this about brain retraining absolutely changed my life. I'm going to talk about the training zone today and how I was able to utilize this in very specific ways to move myself out of a place of living in a dark bedroom with noise canceling headphones and dark sunglasses to being in a place of thriving, getting out in nature, becoming a whitewater raft guide, starting my own business, and having a full life of friends and fun. I was able to do this, and I was coming from a severe place of devastation and severe chronic illness with diagnosis of Lyme disease, multiple chemical sensitivities, sensory processing disorders, severe food sensitivities, to now thriving and living a full life. If I was able to do this and come out of these types of chronic experiences, I believe that anybody can do this as well. Okay, let's get into the video. A whole host of different things that I use to heal myself, and I have a video about that which I'll link down below. But in this video, I'm going to talk about the facet of everything for me. So a huge part of this I talk about in a lot of videos was brain retraining. Brain retraining absolutely changed my life. It wasn't the only thing I did. I also did a bunch of other things with it. Again, it was like the facet, kind of the tie to putting everything together. Now, something that I recognized around brain retraining that was a huge tool which you can implement to help yourself through this process was really learning and understanding my training zone. So the training zone is like the area that you are working in now, which feels like it's just a little bit of a push beyond what is like completely comfortable for you. So now, when I was first starting this, I was living in a dark bedroom with dark sunglasses on, noise canceling headphones on. I didn't want anybody to touch me because my skin was so sensitive. My stool did not look like stool and was full of parasites and candida. I was eating about 10 different food items, so I had severe things going on. My limitations, at that point were immense. And so when we talk about training zone, my training zone was very small at this time, which is okay. That was where I was at, and now I'm in a completely different place, eating literally anything I want now. So if we look at this as the training zone across the screen here, now this was where I started. This was, me in a dark bedroom. This was me wearing dark sunglasses, barely able to get out of bed. And now this is me eating anything I want, exercising, big workouts every day, huge social life, doing the things that I want to do in life. So how the heck did I get from here to here? If you're resonating with this content and interested in more of it, please give this video a like so I know, and comment down below any questions or stories that you have to share around it too. Now this was huge, small, like many small increments to getting to here. Now, somewhere around, let's say if this was 2018 and this was now 2025, somewhere around here would have been 2021 when I was going to become a whitewater raft guide. So this was a huge pivot point for me of using that experience as brain retraining. So you can kind of see, here is life is completely different. I'm literally in a different body, a different nervous system, a different mindset, a different life entirely. Here, I moved completely out of everything that was familiar and comfortable for me, and I went to Tahoe up in the mountains in California, and I went to completely anything and everything that was unfamiliar. This was a huge part of my brain retraining experience, was leaving everything behind for me. Anything that I knew, anything that was gonna bring back things, that I remembered in an old victim mindset, sick mindset, I was able to purge a lot of that here. In between here and here of, somewhere in 2018 to April of 2021, when I moved to Tahoe, I had lots of different things happen in this period of time. So just before I moved to Tahoe, it was COVID. So I was, the world was kind of shut down, and I was doing things a lot on my own and trying to do things to stretch myself. So I ended up doing a lot of shopping of delivery things for people. So this was an easy way for me to start working on my own schedule and learn how to manage my schedule, how to manage my energy, how to exercise my nervous system. When I say exercising the nervous system, that is really like stretching ourselves to a place that's just, you know, outside of that comfort zone. And so I was able to manage my own schedule and my workload in order to exercise my nervous system in a place where I could make money, get out and do things that were unfamiliar to me, do things that scared me every day. So that was like this chunk of time where I was doing these shopping deliveries on my own schedule, like being my own boss, learning how to work and everything like that. So when I got sick, I was 19 and I was a freshman in college, and then I never really was able to work except for doing some marketing for my family business and retail, like occasionally here and there over the 10-year span for maybe like 3 or 4 hours at a time. I was not able to work through that time or go to school. So getting out in 2020 and doing these shopping deliveries, and I did prescription deliveries as well, helped me to understand, you know, how to get outside of where I was in a way that was like a safe container for me. Now, before I was doing that, I was, it was October of 2019 that I ended up driving again. So this was a huge key marker for me of like, wow, things are shifting here. I still had tremendous food sensitivities. I wasn't eating much of anything. I was still kind of going in between like multiple chemical sensitivity of, you know, constantly brain retraining, constantly doing breath work to calm my nervous system down, to calm my mast cell activation down as I was exposed to various things when I was out in public. I had just started taking a mask off when I was in public. Again, this was 2019 when no one was wearing masks, and I was wearing a mask every time that I left the house, because up until like that kind of October of 19 period, because I was so sensitive to everything. So October of 2019, so we're somewhere like around here maybe, I was driving again for the first time. Now, this first experience of driving looked like being in the back roads of Arizona with nobody around, my best friend in the car with me, and I'm like, okay, I've been training for this, I've been visualizing and futurizing for this, and now I am going to get behind the wheel and get rid of break through that initial huge fear. And knowing that my nervous system was at a place, my vertigo had largely gone away. You know, there were so many aspects and huge cervical neck issues that were going on, where even like turning my head to look behind me in the car was an issue, but prior to this. So I was like, okay, I'm at a place where I can start to get in the car, get behind the wheel with my friend in the car right next to me on roads where there's no traffic. So here we are, October of 2019. That was a huge marker point for me. Before that, there was a day when I think it was, I honestly can't, it was somewhere between 2018 and 2019, where I got in the car and I backed it up out of the driveway. So again, I was, you know, really nervous of turning my head and seeing what was, you know, looking behind me, because I didn't want my neck to pop out of place, because my neck was in such bad pain all the time and always popping out of place, my axis always off, and vertigo on, you know, that would happen in conjunction with that, and just all the time anyway, pretty much on and off. So I ended up, my mom asked me like, hey, would you mind backing the car out of the driveway into the street? Now I went like, I don't know, like 25 feet or something like that, and just left the car like sitting in the cul-de-sac. So just in the cul-de-sac right there. It was, you know, a huge moment for me though. I obviously really remember this. This was really big for me to just feel the confidence of being able to sit behind the wheel, look behind me, put the car in reverse, and by myself, right, back it out of the driveway. When prior to this, over here and beyond, I was riding in the car with sunglasses on and a sweatshirt over my face, like backwards, so the hood was over my head, because the light shadows were so intense coming in that the sensory processing was causing all of these flickers and shadows, and I would feel like I was going to have a Lyme seizure. My nervous system was severely overwhelmed. Vertigo was super intense. So many different things. Muscle tremors in the car, just endless things. So, huge part of my brain retraining and futurization up until here was lying there on the floor and really thinking about being behind the wheel of the car, feeling my hands on the steering wheel, like imagining rolling the windows down and feeling the wind, playing the music on the radio, which at this point, even thinking about having the radio on in the car, sensory processing overload was like, no way, let alone having a window open with the wind coming through. So I had to retrain myself, to be like, okay, it's safe to have the window down and having wind coming in, the sound isn't going to hurt me. The extra sensory of the wind hitting my skin like that isn't going to hurt me. The radio on, just training alone for having music on, background music on. And then on top of it, also able to have a conversation over that was huge for me. So as you can see, the little increments of training zones that were in there, were small. As I was, at one point I was, cats at the door. At one point I was just training the various different types of sensory processing. So the window being down, the music being on, the feeling of things on my skin, all that kind of stuff. And then another aspect to this was feeling the confidence and gaining the, mental and nervous system side of feeling like I could get behind the wheel of the car. So little increments in order to get there. Now, if we look at October of 2019, when I first got in the car and drove on that back road for the first time, now there was a long way to go to be in the car by myself, to go on a road trip. A huge thing that I was doing was imagining myself in the car going on a road trip. So when it was October of 2019, I ended up going between then and moving to Tahoe in 2021. I ended up taking my first road trip up to Tahoe to visit my friend. So that was a huge thing. I remember driving across the bridge and just crying. There was like this part where I was like, wow, I've made it like halfway and I'm here. I did this. Like, I can't believe this. This is amazing. So, that was like a huge point for me. Now, in all these little increments of things, there was severe anxiety around this stuff. Like, can I really do this? Questioning myself, what if something happens? What if something goes wrong? And I had to learn that I could trust myself in these things. So let's go back further now. Before October 19, we're talking about me lying down on the floor in brain retraining. I'm coming out of being in a dark bedroom for months with sunglasses on and noise canceling headphones to, in this increment of time here, before I went and backed up the car out of the driveway, I was lying on the ground. I was visualizing, futurizing what my life would be like again if I could get behind the wheel of a car. And I'm using this as like one example of many different things that I did for brain retraining. And so I would lie there on the floor and I would visualize myself every day getting behind the wheel of the car. Now, this driving was something that didn't just mean getting in the car and moving myself from like one place to another. It symbolized freedom. It symbolized, my ability to get myself to and from a job, to go and see friends, to get out in nature when I wanted to go get supplies from the store and food, if I needed to on my own. So driving was a huge thing for me to to make my brain understand that it was safe to go do these things. Now, when I was in this increment of time and I was wearing these noise canceling headphones, I wore these noise canceling headphones for a long time here, pretty much like on and off until I moved to Tahoe. I would still use them on a regular basis because my nervous system would become overloaded at some point, and putting earplugs in and noise canceling headphones on and rose colored sunglasses after I switched from the dark old lady sunglasses to rose colored sunglasses, that also was super helpful to just kind of calm my nervous system down a little bit. So those were in my training zone at different points, and I utilized them, differently throughout this huge period of time. So when I was starting, over here, and I was getting out of the bedroom and going into the kitchen and eating food out in the main part of the house without my noise canceling headphones on and listening to the clink of the fork on the bowl. If there was other people in the house, like listening to, where they could not have the TV on when I was in the room, or it would have to be like so quiet, and I could not understand conversation if the TV was on at the same point. So there was like a huge point in time here where I had to do very small margins of what my training zone was at that point. So I actually started brain retraining in 2017, saw a little bit of benefits, went and did stem cells, which I have a whole video on that. I don't think that helped me at all. Got way worse, and that was the 2018 was when I was way worse after stem cells. But previous to that, I did start brain retraining in 2017, and I did it for, I don't know, maybe like 6 months or so, and then stopped. So there were lots of fluctuations and changes, as life is. There's not just consistency or an easy way to explain things always. So but we're using the 2018 because this was like a huge marker of, this was when I was like at one of my worst, and the sensory processing and the multiple chemical sensitivity and the food allergies were so bad. So that 2018, when I'm in the dark bedroom, I'm wearing my noise canceling headphones most of the time, I had to feel in myself that I could be safe enough to take them off and allow myself to train with them off. So whether that was in the bedroom and there was a lawnmower going off in the distance, and I would leave them off and I would do breath work, and I would really feel into what I needed to calm my nervous system down. Was that a heavy weighted blanket at the moment? What could calm me down in that moment? Really, it was like breath work. It was like telling myself, no, this noise is somebody supporting their garden, in the distance. They're out there and they're maintaining, they're in the sun, they're cutting their grass. And I would also relate this to when I was a child. I was like, Saturday, people would go out and cut their lawn, and I remember the smell of the cut lawn, and that meant that I lived in Wisconsin till I was 7, so that meant that it was not snowing, so it was like nice weather that I could go out and play in the sun, and that it was Saturday, so that meant it was a day off of school, and my parents were home, and we were going to be able to go outside and play in the yard, kind of thing. That was a really good memory that I was able to bring up to say, oh yes, like this is safe. This is just somebody out there cutting their lawn. Like, bring up those memories as I'm breathing, as I'm calming my nervous system down. And then after that, however long I felt like, okay, I've hit my limit. This is going too far beyond my comfort zone, and my nervous system is feeling like really out of whack now. Noise canceling headphones came back on, earplugs went back in, noise canceling headphones, and I was able to calm myself down again and feel safe. But it was exposing myself in those little increments so that I was able to feel safe in my body, safe in, my futurizations, and then go back. So, sitting out there and eating food in the main part of the house, trying to have a conversation with somebody while I was eating, listening to noises, bright lights. So actually in the bathroom, I went for years without turning the bathroom light on. I literally learned to operate in the dark I knew where my supplements were. I knew where, you know, anything I needed was. I would maybe turn on like a dim light. I had the Himalayan like night lights that would plug into the bathroom, so that was something that I could turn on and use. But if as much as I could, would operate in the dark, even in the kitchen in the dark if it was nighttime. I got really, really good at that. It's a skill I can still utilize now, I guess. But I would turn the lights on in the bathroom, have my eyes closed at first, breathe, tell myself that I was safe in my nervous system. And then I would just feel the light hitting me, and it felt like heat and like acid like burning down on me, because my body had learned that this artificial light was like so painful. And then it was, you know, slowly opening my eyes and just being in that for a short period of time to feel that sensation on me, the light coming into my eyes. So it was very small incrementations of that, exposing myself and then also calming my nervous system down. So alkalosis breathing or Wim Hof like style breathing was something that allowed me to put myself into that temporary state of shock, so that I was able to, my body was basically saying, wait a minute, hold on, we have to survive in this moment here. I cannot work on the programming that I was working on before. I have to let that go and survive here in this moment. So that's how I utilized alkalosis breathing in order to help myself through brain retraining, through these, you know, training zones. So as you can see, when I started, it was, you know, like these tiny little like things. And then, you know, it was like, okay, let me go to the mailbox, and, you know, I might run into a neighbor. Oh my gosh, this is bringing up a lot of anxiety. I don't know what to say. I don't want to talk to anybody. They're going to ask me how I'm doing, and I'm not going to have a response to that. I'm going to feel embarrassed and, you know, like not know how to explain what's going on. And it was, you know, that whole thing that would go through my head. Then there was also like going to the grocery store. At various points in time, I was using the scooters in the grocery store because I didn't have the energy to walk. I had a handicap placard in my car so that we could park near the door, and then I could get into the scooter and get around the store. So all of these, you know, little things were tiny increments of shifts and change that happened over time. But the thing that really changes is when you start doing it and you face the lion, as they say. You just like, I'm gonna do it. I know it's gonna be, it could feel intense, it's gonna be scary, you know, there might be some pain in this, I'm gonna do it. Then that's when things open up and it becomes a little bit less scary. You do it once or twice and it's like, oh, okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Yes, it was still challenging. Yes, I still had to go rest afterwards. Yes, I had to regulate my nervous system afterwards. And I also know that I could do that, and now I can build upon that. I have that experience that I went through, and now I can go beyond that. So that happened with getting in the car and looking behind me and realizing like, oh wait, I could do that. And to however many months it was down the line from that, feeling safe enough to get behind the wheel with my friend in the car on a back dirt road, to, you know, then 2021, or to then, well, a road trip in between 2019 and 2021, driving up to Tahoe for the first time on my own, to then doing that multiple times and going and staying up there with her for long spans of time and feeling, okay, I feel safe enough that I can look for a room to rent somewhere and go off and become a whitewater raft guide. So there is, you know, lots of different incrementations, and continuously doing something that scared me. This is not to stay in our comfort zone. This is that we have to do things in our training zone that are just, you know, on the outskirts of our comfort zone. That is how we move ourselves out of what we were in. And that'll look different for everybody at different times. I have so many different versions of this that I had to do for everything, because it was my digestion, it was the sensory processing, it was multiple chemical sensitivities, toxic mold, massive skin rashes, candida and parasites, you know, I mean, it was everything, Lyme seizures. Yeah, it was training out of a lot of things, you know, so it's possible to train ourselves out of these things. And we have to continuously take the initiative to do the things that scare us. And this is with the support of all the other things, you know, that we're using in our day-to-day life to help support ourselves, to help support our body in all these ways, you know, through whatever practices or, you know, things that we find are also going to help us in this. Staying grounded, getting out in nature if we can. That was another part of my training zone, was even just going and sitting in the backyard at certain points in time was feeling like it was a stretch for my nervous system. And I realized I could do it if I wore my headphones, I wore my sunglasses, I covered my skin as much as possible from the wind, and I allowed myself to be outside. And then I could maybe start taking my headphones off a little bit, maybe start taking my sunglasses off a little bit. Maybe I could lay in the sun that day. You know, it was different things at different points in times, and it was okay if, you know, I exercised my nervous system and I was like, okay, now it's time to calm my nervous system down. These are all huge, huge things to helping us move from this place of being in a dark bedroom with not really any life going on here to now being out here and, you know, having a full life. So it takes the internal effort. It's more than just taking supplements. It's more than just doing treatments. It's more than that. It's, I am going to do this in a way that feels safe. I'm not going to push myself too far. I'm going to do it in a way that feels like it's right for me. So I hope that helps. Please leave comments down below if you have any questions or any versions of how this helped you, if you've utilized this or you're working through a brain retraining program, and like this video so I know that this content is something that is helping you. All right, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.